Hello YouTube, and welcome to what is technically layout update 11 now, because the video titled "Whose Idea Was This?" That was my moment of creativity there. I sort of labelled that layout update 10, to 10.5 or 10A or something.
Okay, let's stop rambling about nothing now.
So that was an addition to layout update 10,
No, seriously, just
and this
stop.
is carrying on from that. So
Stop.
So, what have I been doing? Well, if I move all this clutter out the way, we can see this side at least is complete. Before I go too far, if you haven't seen layout update 10A or 10.5 or 10.1 or whatever I named it, it's called Whose Idea Was This? And the link is on the screen now. And it will be back at the end of the video as usual. Quite often the links take a few days for me to remember to put them into the video, so if it's not there yet, it's in the description or somewhere, or just go to my channel and find it. Anyway, enough of me ranting or whatever about that. We got this back in. So the track on this side of the layout, you'll remember all of this was because of this point. So getting this new point in, it sort of moved everything out from there, and there were huge gaps that opened up and stuff. But I can go right in there and look, there's no huge gaps at all. They're all normal size, tiny gaps, if any at all. I've got a new power tracking, because you remember I wrecked the last one, half the sleepers came off. And yes, so this side from the right of the level crossing is pretty much done. So what I did was not actually much, because I've figured out what was causing it was the badly laid track over there. And that looks a lot more complete than it is. Actually, none of this is actually down. I can still take that out. But basically there's huge unevenness in the track laid right around here, going right round that way. I think I just killed someone, they just fell off the layout. But that was causing the level crossing to be sort of squiff. One track was further forward than the other or something, and the whole lot was uneven, and that was pushing around here, and all it took was when I changed this point, it pushed it that way or something a bit, which I'm still not quite sure how, because it was tacked down, as it is again now. Zoom. You can see I've tacked all of it down again. So yeah, this side is completely done. To the right of the level crossing, this side is completely done. This piece of track, that was quite fun to get in, shall we say. Basically this side, this bit here is yanked as far that way as it can go, and these sides are pushed out. That sort of, in effect, makes the piece of track a little bit shorter than it really is, by making it go further that way, if that makes sense. So that just allows this to come this way a bit, and it gave it a bit more room, and that helped get rid of the gaps. And the only thing you'll notice here is this piece of flexi track isn't back in fact it's over here. The reason that's not in just yet is because somehow this now no longer fits, which, actually, thinking about it, that shouldn't surprise me, because it has all moved around quite a bit. Somewhere around here, in fact I think that's the best sort of demonstration on the power track just there. You can see that's where the tack's going in at the moment, and that hole there is where the original piece went in. So it's moved, the whole line has not only moved across, but back as well. So yeah, it's had a huge move around. As you remember, the whole lot was taken out before, and we're just back to bare baseboard all the way from the tunnel right round to over there. So yeah, it's all moved around a lot, and that has meant that this piece of flexi track no longer fits properly. So I'm just so what I've done, jump cut X, the battery just died. So what I've just done is I've filed I'm filing this shorter. Basically it's too long. And I could just move this track back, but the reason this coach is here, because if I moved this piece of track back, it would then move it too close to that, and all the coaches would scrape against this wall of the tunnel, which is a bit stupid. Technically the tunnel should come all the way across, but that's a job for a few decades time. When I get really bored, I'll change all this and have the hill building up from over here somewhere. So yeah, that one's about to go in, and apart from that, we have just these two on this side of the crossing, if it wants to focus. Also notice we're on the level crossing, just a bit of an odd shot there if you didn't realise we're on the level crossing. You'll know I was quite annoyed in the last update that when I ripped all the track up I had to take the level crossing out, which I didn't want to do. In fact, all the gates are over there somewhere. That's them, and you remember I painted all the posts and stuff, and I painted the crossing, so that it was one grey all the way across to up here somewhere. It all fitted in, it didn't look like an extra piece of plastic, which is, to be honest, what it is a level crossing. I also polyfilled it in, because there's a little step, it sort of sloped down, and then there was a little step down to the baseboard. So to get rid of that, I polyfilled it all in. And in taking it out, the most annoying part was I cracked all of that. And the grey I used I mixed it up. So basically I'm going to have to repaint all of this road and the level crossing, so I've sort of given in to my fate on this, and I've started, so I've sanded down all of this, or I'm sanding down, hence there's no paint on there currently, and it needs more, because there's still a bit of a gap. So then once that's sanded down, we can fill it with polyfiller again on both sides, that is. And then we can see how much we have to paint. I'll probably have to paint all of it, but we'll get there. So yeah, it's that's one of the many annoying things. On this side, well, this one is the most interesting one, so we'll start with that, shall we? So basically, this is the second radius piece, and it was in the thingy, and the thingy is the fish plates. I'm gonna try and connect it, and I'm not sure I can, because I'm trying to do this in an awkward way that I don't block the camera, and I'm still blocking the camera. We'll go for a, no, we don't need a jump cut, right, it's gone in. Go zoom over a bit. Right, so it was basically in like that. So instead of being straight, it was in like that. And my original plan was to just straighten it out. But to have it straight like that, it was actually coming right over, sort of over here somewhere. Which shows how dodgy my track laying was. But basically, what I've done then, to get this slightly more straight, or hopefully it will be completely straight by the time I'm finished, is I've sort of done make your own flexi track. So I've cut out every few sleepers. I've cut out the joiner, which goes under the track, and I've hopefully made it a little more flexible. Well, I have made it a little more flexible. It doesn't feel it, but I can actually bend it. It doesn't feel like I'm bending it, so that's what I mean. So I sort of bend it and just guess the right shape. And it's getting there. It is almost now the right shape to come to the level crossing and be straight in that join. The only problem is that leaves us with one track too short, which is always the problem with curves and flexi track. You bend it and the outer track is too long, or no, the inner track becomes too long and the outer rail becomes too short. So you have to account for that and measuring and stuff. And I'm terrible at that. But seemingly as this isn't FlexiTrack, I'm just sort of making a tiny bit of rail to go in there, which will hopefully fill that gap. I mentioned this tiny bit of rail on well, in the last update in 10B or 10A or whatever it was now, and here it is. Bring the light over. You have to excuse, this is quite a sort of informal shoddy update. But here we can see in the one fish plate joining the two, we have two tiny bits of rail, and this is as close as I can get without losing focus, really. So sorry it's so small, but it is really small in real life as well. And it was a heck of a job trying to cut two pieces of rail this small. So I wasn't entirely sure it was going to work. I was thinking at one point I'd have to shorten this piece of track and then cut a piece of FlexiTrack about so long to go in there and, you know, have this end there and another piece of FlexiTrack, if that makes sense. But this does seem to work. So if you're wondering how I've managed to get 3 pieces of rail into one fish plate, that's a good question, and I was wondering that myself before I tried it. But basically, because these are just a tiny bit too long, actually, even though they're so small, they're actually longer than the gap was that they were meant to fill. So that has sort of pushed this back, and don't worry, it's not moved or ruined anything up here, because I made sure this was well and truly tacked down. I've learnt my lesson, so this here is now not going anywhere, no matter what I do here, in theory anyway. I can't get any more tacks in there. So basically that makes this quite tight, and it's all pushing in on itself. And that means that even though you can see having 3 pieces of rail, this piece of track is only in about a millimetre's worth of fish plate. And the same on the other side, the level crossing this rail is only about that much fish plate, and then that's taking up the rest. But because it's all so tight, it's not coming out, and it conducts electricity, and it's all good, and it doesn't seem to derail. I was up till quite late last night testing this with the 04, which is the light's perfectly in the way. There's the 04 behind the signal as well. There. So basically, that's what I'm planning on this one as well. And hoping it doesn't derail everything on this, because this one has worked so well. I've got a few warnings of people saying tiny bits of rail can cause problems, and I was worried about it myself, to be honest. Even my dad was saying that, you know, you need to cut a piece of FlexiTrack about that long and cut this one shorter. And I thought, no, I'm just going to try this first, and if it doesn't work, and rather when it doesn't work, I'll go to the FlexiTrack. But this seems to have solved the problem. Obviously, if it starts derailing stuff, I'm obviously going to have to take it up. So I'm not going to ballast this piece of track for a while, and make sure I've tested every piece of loco with every piece of rolling stock possible over this first, and around those points before I start ballasting anything this time, because the amount of ballast I've ripped up is painful. In fact, it's here. That's just some of it. It's in a upturned platform. So it's the first thing I had. But yeah, that's all the ballast that's being ripped up, and the amount of it I'm going to be able to reuse, I don't know, because it's all come up in sort of lumps like this, and they're quite, yeah, I can't break that, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to grind it back down to individual pieces of ballast. I know on bits like this it's easier because you can just sort of break it up, because that's a lot smaller. But yeah, so that's going to be nice. I'll find something to do with that, whether I'll build a quarry or something, I don't know. But yeah, so that is pretty much it. I'm gonna carry on messing about with track. The other thing is, I always have something else that I miss. This platform moved. You remember this also had polyfiller joining it and stuff to cover up the cracks. So that might have to be repainted as well, which is really annoying again. But nothing I can do as long as the trains work. Because last night I got to run the 04, which you can now see now the camera's a bit higher. That got to run the whole loop for the first time in about a month and a half, possibly 2-3 months. I've lost track completely. But yes, so that made me quite happy that I could finally run something in a loop. And it didn't derail. Unfortunately, I can't run anything on the inner loop yet for obvious reasons. And I can't run anything up the branch line yet for more of the same obvious reasons. But yeah, pretty much nothing else has happened on the layout whilst I've been doing this. In fact, nothing else has happened on the layout apart from I've made quite a mess. There's coaches and stuff where the forest should be, or forest might be one day if I can ever bother to buy some trees. In fact, the only piece of scenic work I've done is painting this drain on the level crossing. Oh, crash landing. There we go. That is the drain. And I'm not sure why you'd need a drain in the middle of the ballast, but there you go. That is it. I've glued a bit of grass in there, painted it rusty colour, which is a bit pinky for my liking. If you actually look at it, the Humbrol rust is really bright pink. In fact, that's it. In fact, it's looking okay on camera, but to my eye, it looks quite, well, way too pinky, way too red. So I've sort of undercoated it brown first, but not made much difference, so I'll carry on playing with that. So thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and hopefully in the next video I can show you some trains running on both loops, by the next update at least. So yeah, I'm still going on about nothing. Anyway, thanks for watching, like, subscribe, see you again soon, and goodbye!